Hello everyone, I hope you're well and having a good week. Today I would like to welcome you to the Frazer-Nash webinar. Frazer-Nash is a leading engineering and technology consultancy who works across the defence, transport and energy sectors, to name a few, with customers ranging from government, nuclear power stations, the MOD, the NHS, as well as civil aviation and rail companies. So in essence, what do? They help companies solve their problems. A little later on, Ian, the recruitment business partner, is going to give us a little bit more information about the future of Frazer-Nash and what that looks like and what makes them different to other consultancies. I'm also really excited to be joined by three grads. Philippa, an ex-grad, been there 6 years, six years now, but really excited to be joined by the grads who found their jobs on GradCracker and who also have really different stories to tell. So I'm going to start with Zach. So Zach's history, he actually did 2 summer placements in 2018 and 19 at Frazer-Nash. Started as a graduate in 2020, September, so been there roughly a month. And Zach studied electronic and electrical engineering at the University of Strathclyde. So thanks, Zach, for joining us today. Could you just let the audience know what your role is at Frazer-Nash and kind of what you do?
Thanks for that, Carla. So I'm an engineer, so I've just graduated. I'm in the electrical control and instrumentation group in the Glasgow office at Frazer-Nash Consultancy.
Fantastic. Go on, sorry.
And I've just started, as
Yeah.
I said, so I'll just tell you all about my kind of internship experiences if you like.
Yeah, if you could, you're getting a bit excited, Zach, a bit eager. So Jess is going to go on a little bit later on and ask you that question, but yeah, absolutely. So Zach's got a really good story to tell from why Frazer-Nash interested him in the first place, why he went on his first placement, and then why he went back as well. So yeah, really good information and really good history as well, Zach. So we'll touch on that a little bit later on when we've done the other introductions, but thank you for the introduction so far. Philippa, if I can move on to you. So Philippa's actually been at Frazer-Nash for 6 years, studied at Durham University and studied general engineering before specialising in mechanical engineering. So Philippa, I know you've had a bit more of a story to tell, but what is your current role at Frazer-Nash?
I'm currently a consultant in the programme and management consultancy team. So I specialise in project managing all of our biggest projects for our customers.
Yeah, thank you, Philippa. And I think as well, Jess later on is going to go into the projects that all of the grads have been involved in. And they've got some really fascinating projects that they've been working on. Can't always give names, all the listeners will be used to this now about these webinars. Some of the names and the employers are top secret, but any information that we can give you, obviously we'll do some digging and Jess will do some probing a little bit later on. Last but not least, Dylan, if I can finish with you. So Dylan studied aerospace engineering at Bristol University with an integrated master's. So Dylan, I know you've only been at Frazer-Nash for a month or so, but what are you doing at the moment? What is your role?
Thanks, Carla. So I'm an engineer at Frazer-Nash as well in the modelling group. So my role involves a lot of programming and mathematical modelling, and I've only just started, so I'm only really settling into it, and it looks like I can develop it quite a bit.
Fantastic, thank you, Dylan. And I think as well, we're going to touch on today, Dylan's just said, I've just started, working from home in this quite strange environment that we're all finding ourselves in. So we are going to talk about how Dylan's coping with the new environment and how Frazer-Nash, welcomed him into the company and into a new opportunity as well. So thanks, Dylan, and we'll speak to you a little bit later.
Thanks very much.
Ian, hello, you okay?
Hello. Yes, not too bad, thank you.
Good. Ian, so we're going to, I've detailed a little bit about Frazer-Nash's, so the traditional view of who everybody knows you are. I know you're branching out into new areas, so could you tell the audience a little bit about these new areas and why you've decided to go into these different sectors?
Yeah, no problem. So Frazer-Nash have always kind of evolved to meet our clients' needs. You look right back into when Frazer-Nash started, we had Archie Frazer-Nash produced racing cars in the 1920s. He then moved on to doing aircraft defence systems in the Second World War because that was what was needed. We're a very different company today. We've set up as new entity almost as Frazer-Nash Consultancy, which is 30 years old. So we're still recognizing that the challenges our clients are facing are evolving. And as they do, we continue to evolve to support them. Recently, we've kind of grown into some of the new areas. So we're looking at kind of a lot more in the digital space, so cyber, software and information assurance, also robotics, drones, autonomous systems, and very recently we've got a lot more involved in space systems as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there's something that's really interested me, and it was Philippa, you pointed this out before the webinar. If you were to work at Frazer-Nash, you know, you're working alongside some of the biggest companies in the world. So I think it was you, Philippa, who mentioned, yes, so you're employed by Frazer-Nash, but you're also working with the likes of BP, Jaguar Land Rover. And that's something that I think is really interesting from our viewers' point of view. You're not just staying in one industry. You know, you've got different sectors, different industries, different projects that you're going to be working on as well, which I'm guessing that a lot of our viewers will find quite interesting. So Ian, just to kind of cover off the point that you made there, so you're going into these new sectors, these new areas. Obviously, to our viewers, people who are watching, Frazer-Nash would traditionally, you know, recruit engineers, you know, engineering backgrounds, but now because of these new areas, your digital areas, your information assurance, robotics, etc., they are recruiting all STEM disciplines. So definitely make sure you do your research, go on the Gradcracker Hub. We've opened up the Frazer-Nash opportunities. We've opened another one up. I just saw your email come in, Ian, before this, but we've opened up another opportunity as well. So that's going to go live on the site. So make sure you know all STEM students can apply to their opportunities. Ian, just to stay with you. So in your opinion, what do you think makes your opportunities different to other consultancies?
If you're coming in as a graduate, you come in as an engineer at Frazer-Nash. One of the main things that you generally hear from the engineers that's different from other opportunities and other consultancies is that you're kind of engaged and trusted on real life projects for real life customers from day one. So whether you're coming in as a kind of summer student, a year in industry, or a graduate, you're working alongside technical experts who have kind of been there and done it, and you've got access to their knowledge and mentorship really for that project and beyond. You kind of build the relationship with the people in the business, and they're there to support you. Also, as I think Zach will probably touch on later, we also kind of look at looking after the people that come in for their successful placements. If they do that, then we look to use that to fast track them through to the graduate scheme as well. I think as well, just kind of a final point on that question is that as a consultancy, we've been around for kind of 30 years now. We started off with around 15 staff then, and we're now nearly 900, but you'll still find that we haven't lost a lot of the aspects from smaller consultancies. You still have the business unit directors or the managing director stop by your desk, have a chat. They know what's going on everywhere. They're very familiar with the staff and happy to talk to anyone. So I think that kind of, we launched a big campaign around our values recently, and I think one of the main things at Frazer-Nash is that we all do try and live those values, and that's kind of, we care, we're trusted, we deliver success, and we want to do things that matter, and that reflects throughout the company.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that would be something that some of our viewers might be a little bit intimidated by, you know, thinking Frazer-Nash Consultancy, you know, it's a big employer, but I do think it's important that it's a big employer, but it's kind of a bit of a family unit, isn't it? So people do know your names. You can go and ask, you know, your colleagues, your managers and things like that if you do have any questions. And so hopefully everybody out there who's listening might think, oh, I'd be quite scared to go into a big organisation. It is a big organisation, but it's got a small family feel. So thanks, Ian. I know we're going to go back to you at the end when we're going to cover off things like the application process and things like that. So watch this space, Ian. We'll be back in touch with you. Just to reiterate again to everybody's watching, like I said on the last webinar, the opportunities are closing quickly. Frazer-Nash is closing at the end of December, but make sure you get your applications in. Don't wait until the last minute. You know, Ian could email me on Monday and say, look, Carla, been inundated with applications. Can you close them all down? So, you know, make sure you get your applications in and don't leave it to the last minute. do your research. So Ian and I work really hard on the Frazer-Nash Hub on GradCracker. It's got lots of information on there on how you can put a good quality application together. So their hub consists of things like the benefits, an overview of the placement and graduates, and what a career could look like at Frazer-Nash. Philippa actually stars in a video on there, so you can go and watch a 2-minute video about Philippa walking around the office, and Philippa also explains in more detail about her favourite project and her journey so far. But don't go there yet, because you're going to hear it straight from the horse's mouth in about 5 minutes. So thank you very much, everybody. Great introductions. And Jessica, my love, I'm going to hand over to you.
Brilliant, thank you, Carla. So Zach, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to ask you all the same questions. So Zach, Philippa, then Dylan. So what initially attracted you to Frazer-Nash?
Well, just as Carla mentioned, it's really the wide variety of projects, not getting stuck on the one technical area. So you can get to work with multiple different clients on different areas. Also, they work in defence, nuclear, energy, and I've really been interested in defence work and energy work, and I wasn't really sure whether I wanted to work in either sector. Working with Frazer-Nash, I get to do the lot, so it's really brilliant. There's a professional development scheme, so they constantly train you and progress your career and make sure that you're learning all of the technical skills that you need to know. So that really attracted me. They also pay all of your IET, or well, for me it was the IET, but any professional body membership schemes that you have, they'll pay for your fees and help you through becoming like a chartered engineer. Mm-hmm. They'll give you a mentor and help you all through the application process for that. And again, it's really just helping our clients solve their technical problems. So people will come to us and we can help them. So that really attracted me to Frazer-Nash.
Brilliant. Philippa?
So again, Carla slightly stole my headline here, but when I was a student attending graduate events, I attended the likes of all of the individual employers, but then I went to the Frazer-Nash graduate events and realised that I could work with all of them. By working with Frazer-Nash, I could do the variety of work in all of those sectors. I didn't have to choose one. Sort of similar to the fact that I chose general in the first place, and then I did then specialise in mechanical, but kept my options open basically. But it's also really unique in the variety of work that you actually get to do even within the same sector. So from campaigning and going out and finding the business in the first place, meeting customers for the first time, having that first conversation with them, finding out what their problem is, to then writing down, developing what you think a solution could be, how we could go about solving it. And then should the customer be keen to go with that, actually undertaking that project work, doing that project delivery, doing the technical analysis and delivering it to solve that problem that the customer had when you first met them a few months ago. Doing so that not only are you working a variety of sectors, you're also doing a variety of activities within those sectors as well, which is, yeah, just the variety, keeping your day job interesting and not the same every day is so important. And then, yeah, just to reiterate the family feel as well. I always feel like whilst we've grown and we're obviously not 15 people anymore, you're still only sort of 2 phone calls away from finding your answer. So you always know who you can ask that will know the person that you need to speak to. So yeah, it is still a friendly network. Everyone's really helpful and will always give up their time to help you out with something you need or point you in the right direction.
Philippa, thank you very much for that. Dylan, you're a bit like Zach as well. You found the opportunity on GradCracker, didn't you?
Yeah, that's correct. GradCracker is where I first met, first found out about Frazer-Nash. Yeah, and I guess I was attracted to it for similar reasons that Zach and Philippa both were. The consultancy sector is a place where, you can do interesting technical work, and then you can also get those business development skills. And that variety of workload kind of appealed to me because I don't want to be stuck just in my corner doing maths, but then I also don't want to be stuck just doing the business side of things as well. I like the opportunity to do both.
Yeah.
There was mention of some of the business sectors that we're kind of expanding into as well. One of the business areas that I'm really interested in is space. And so our sort of movement into that area, kind of picking up more projects over there or trying to, really kind of stood out to me as something that I really wanted to be involved in.
That's really exciting. I know before when we've spoken, Dylan, you've mentioned about the mentorship scheme and how important that was to you as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Zach said, we have a proper professional development scheme, paid for membership for your institution, a mentor provided, and kind of a general sort of guided strategy for your development into eventual chartership. And yeah, that's something that really sort of spoke to me reading the advert, because as much as companies can say that they're interested in your development, the things that they do to demonstrate that are more important. And having that sort of dedicated professional development scheme, I think, speaks a lot to what Frazer-Nash is willing to invest into you.
And so far, would you say that they've, you know, matched what they've promised in the hub?
I have only been here a month, so it's been a bit kind of all over the place. But in terms of what they've shown me so far, I'd definitely say so, yeah.
Brilliant, good stuff. Zach, I'm going to come to you because I know you're super keen to talk about your placement experiences. So you've done 2 summer placements with Frazer-Nash. We know what attracted you to the kind of first placement, but why did you go back after doing the first one?
So a big part was that in my first summer placement, I got to go to a nuclear power station, and ever since I first learned about nuclear power, since I was a young boy, I've been really interested in it. So the fact that I got to go and stand meters away from a nuclear reactor and go on top of it and see all of the massive machinery and see it all in first person really just kind of made the deal that I wanted to go back with Frazer-Nash.
Mm-hmm.
Not only just that, because obviously you're not always working in nuclear power jobs, as I was talking about the variety of work, the people in the office, the Glasgow office and the whole company in general was really friendly and helpful. And my line manager in particular, he was a really nice guy, so approachable, and I could ask him anything, and it was just so nice, and he really made me want to go back because it was a nice environment to work in.
Brilliant, yeah. So in terms of you kind of going back then, what was kind of the process like from finishing your placement to applying again for the graduate programme? Was you fast tracked at all? How did that process go? So what did you do basically to kind of get onto the graduate programme after doing your placement?
So at the end of both of your placements, you have sort of a review, sort of like an appraisal with your line manager. He says what you've been working on, if you've achieved the kind of goals that you set at the start of the placement. And at the end of my second placement, he was pretty happy with the work that I had done.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that I was competent in my job, because he said your summer internships are basically like a 6-month interview. So they're getting to know you, you're getting to know the company. And at the end of my second placement, I was asked if I would be interested in joining the graduate scheme,
Mm-hmm.
which of course I agreed because I was happy with the company. There was a competitive salary, $2,500 starting bonus. It was a no-brainer, really. So yes, I want to join the graduate scheme. And then November last year, I got an email inviting me for an interview. The next month, went for an interview. I had to do a 20-minute presentation explaining what I'd done in my summer internships and what I'd learned and what was most challenging, what I enjoyed the most.
Mm-hmm.
Followed by like 20 minutes of kind of questions from my line manager and his manager, kind of asking me some sort of situational awareness questions, what I would do in a certain situation, if I had any conflict, how I would resolve a conflict, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then a month later, I was offered a conditional offer. As long as I got a minimum 2-1 grade, then I had the graduate job.
Brilliant.
And that was it. It was so easy.
So that was really, you were fast tracked then. So that wouldn't be the normal route of a graduate that hasn't had work experience with Frazer-Nash.
No, I'm pretty sure that there would be at least one more interview stage and a more in-depth application process. Because I did have to fill out an application form, but it was like one or 2 pages. It wasn't much because my manager already obviously knew what I'd done and what I was like.
Zach, going off piece slightly, because I feel as though this week I've done so many presentations, speaking to so many different students about the importance of placements, the importance of, looking for a graduate job and when you should do it. And, speaking to so many second year students that are thinking about now going to do a summer or a year in industry placement. And I say to them all the benefits of doing it, but it just sounds so much better when you say it, because obviously you've done it. But I always say as well, there's a massive benefit for you as an individual. When you come back after doing a placement, how did you find that final year at uni? Did it feel different? Did it feel as though like your degree, everything had all kind of clicked into place and you think, I'm more confident now?
Definitely. Even just the stuff, sorry, that I was doing in my second summer placement, I went in and chose specific classes at my degree that kind of aligned with the work that I was doing at Frazer-Nash. So up until that point, I didn't really know if I wanted to go into like high voltage engineering or really low voltage designing circuit boards or stuff like that. But my placement at Frazer-Nash really kind of solidified my idea, and I really knew that I wanted to go into modeling high voltage systems. And again, due to the fast track process, it made my last year a lot easier as well. Because I wasn't just applying to lots and lots of graduate jobs, because even people that I know, my peers in the course and stuff like that, they would spend hours and hours and hours doing applications. And it really took a lot of their time away from their degree. So it really saved me a lot of time as well. And I produced more interesting work and better work in my fifth year than I would have if I didn't get the fast track, basically.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm so glad you said that, because feel like I've been saying that all week. And it's so nice to hear it from someone like yourself that's gone through the experience. So Dylan, I'm sorry. Hi, Dylan. Can I go to you next with the same question as I've asked Philippa and Zach? What initially attracted you to Frazer-Nash?
Sure. I believe Carla might have already asked me this one, but I'll go again. So yeah, it was just kind of
We've done this one, Jess.
Yeah.
Hi.
We're going on to placements. Philippa.
Oh my gosh, I have. I'm like getting confused myself.
I was a bit confused.
I'm thinking I've gone off track, so I'm thinking about totally different stuff. So sorry, guys.
Philippa was getting ready then. She was like sitting up proper. She's like, it's my turn now.
It's me now. Sorry everyone. I'm having a bit of a moment then. I was too excited about what Zach has said. So yes, sorry Dylan, bless your heart, having a bit of a moment then. So sorry, Philippa. So staying with placements, let's go back to placements where I was a minute ago. You did a placement with ABB, that's right, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And who, by the way, just shout out to ABB, who also advertised on GradCracker. We did a webinar with them a couple of weeks ago, so have a look at their webinar too. What experience did you gain at ABB, and how did you find them kind of beneficial to the role that you're in now?
Thanks. So ABB overall is sort of a robotics automation company, but they have a small consultancy wing, which is where I did my two summer internships. And it was just absolutely invaluable for me deciding that consultancy was what I wanted to do, that I enjoyed solving problems for customers, the stuff that they are really struggling with, that they can't work out how to do themselves, and they come to consultants to help them with it. It was a taster of working in the real world as well, which just going to an office and how to conduct yourself in an office environment is something you understandably haven't done before. Until you get to an internship. Okay, you might have done a week of work experience, but it's not the same. So just learning those basics, but then also discovering the variety of roles that there are in engineering, and it just completely solidified my decision to pursue a career in engineering consultancy. I looked further afield to a company that, this was actually quite a few years ago, so that Frazer-Nash had a more established graduate intake than that little consultancy bit of ABB. But then it also sort of gave me, in my final year, a purpose to why I was doing my degree, why it was worth completing it, why it was worth getting the 2-1 or higher, because I had something I was sure I wanted to do at the end of it as well.
That's great. And again, that's seconding the advice that, you know, a lot of people are, you know, say that get these experiences, everything just kind of clicks into place and you know why. And also it's beneficial. You think, I know what I want to do. I know what my next step is. It makes it all a bit easier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, Dylan, back to you now. I'm not going crazy, I promise. So you had a similar story to Philippa. You did 2 placements, again with another advertiser on GradCracker DSTL. What kind of benefits did you get? I guess a lot of the kind of benefits have already been said, but is there anything that you could kind of second or add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my placements were a bit strange in that they weren't strictly engineering placements at DSTL. They were kind of more in a sort of general STEM scientific area, and I think that was quite valuable for me because it sort of was exposure to things that I could do with my degree that aren't necessarily talked about at my degree. You know, the aerospace masters at Bristol can sometimes be quite, you learn how to build a civil aircraft or you learn aircraft in general. And I think it was really, really valuable for me to get that exposure to other parts, like other things that I could do with the skills that I had. And it really gave me a lot of confidence in applying for a lot of jobs that I wouldn't have otherwise applied for, including Frazer-Nash. And aside from that, I think most of the other stuff has been talked about, how to conduct yourself in an office, those sort of networking skills to be able to kind of build networks professionally with people who might be useful further down the line, collaborative team working skills, and also the idea that I wanted to do more than just technical work. But yeah, it was a very invaluable experience and I can't recommend it enough.
Good. Well, that's placements covered. So if anyone listening, if you've got the chance to do a placement, make sure you do one. Dylan, sticking with you. So we're in this new world in the middle of a pandemic. What's it like starting a graduate program in the middle of a pandemic? And how has Frazer-Nash, I guess, looked after you throughout this kind of first month of joining the program?
I can't lie, it's bizarre. It's very strange, and I don't think it's how many people expect to start a job, but that doesn't necessarily mean it should be thought of as kind of scary or a negative experience, especially as a lot of the people watching will end up starting jobs probably in similar circumstances, depending on how things go over the coming year, of course. And there's a lot of positive things that you can take from it, and there's not really much that you miss out on if you know, if your company looks after you and if you engage with it properly. Frazer-Nash has done an absolutely first-class job of onboarding me, of making me feel welcome. Everyone who I've talked to, everyone who I've interacted with has really kind of done the most and gone out of their way to make me feel like a part of the company, despite me having, you know, no previous experience there before and really having only met 1 or 2 people in person. And I think it's really impressive that they've managed that.
That's really good, because I think me personally, if I was going through the process now, I would be a bit nervous about that and, you know, thinking, what is the process going to be like? Are you almost at a bit of a disadvantage because you're not meeting people face to face, being able to network? But by the sounds of it, you can, and, you know, you have had those positive experiences, which is really good. Philippa, going to you next. Your kind of history with Frazer-Nash has kind of gone in loads of different paths, hasn't it? You've moved teams, you've moved offices, which was from, am I right saying, Bristol to Surrey?
Yeah.
And you've been on secondment. And how the hell has Frazer-Nash helped you with all this? Sounds like you've done loads. So tell me a bit about that.
There was something that clicked in my final year when I realised that starting a job wasn't that for the rest of my life. It was actually just the next stepping stone once I graduated, and that has definitely been what Frazer-Nash have let me do. So I joined the supportability team in the Bristol office to begin with, which was looking at how equipment is maintained, both sort of designed so that it's maintainable in the first instance, but then once it's in service, what do you actually do if you change the purpose of the equipment, etc., etc. So that was really interesting. did change offices. They were fully supportive of that, despite it was actually completely for personal reasons that I moved. And I then changed teams as well. So I realised that I was navigating towards doing the project management of the projects that came to our team, and was really enjoying that. And that I just thought my skills aligned with doing this. So I took a sidestep into the teams that do the project management for the big projects for the company. So that I was sort of sat in a team with the expertise in that area. And then I am actually also currently on secondment at the moment to doing supporting our big bids. So we have to bid to win work. We have to write a proposal saying we will do this for you, it will cost this much. And when we get multi-million-pound projects, there's a specialist team that do the bids for those, just because it's of the size of them and complexity of them. So I'm currently on secondment with them. But yeah, Frazer-Nash have been really, really on board with me having a go at different things and gaining some experience. And yeah, I've just had to say I'd like to do it, and they've made it happen. Which has been
good. It's a good bit of advice there as well, because I had a student actually ask me this week about location, and I always say you must be flexible on your location, especially when it comes to not just a graduate program, but your experiences already. It might be that a certain project might take you to a certain location. It might be for personal reasons you want to move. So being flexible and open can actually be a benefit, can't it? Because it can lead you and direct you in lots of different paths, which is great. So in terms of kind of, we've all touched upon the different projects that you kind of manage at Frazer-Nash, and these can be, huge variety of projects from kind of 2 weeks to 5 years long, multi-million-pound projects. Philippa, starting with you, what's kind of your favourite project you've worked on so far?
So a couple of years ago, the London Underground came to Frazer-Nash to say that the Central Line were really struggling, and they had the sort of poorest performance of all the fleets on the Underground, and came and said to Frazer-Nash, please can you help us find out why and do something about it.
Right.
So I worked on that project, and over a couple of stages of it, we worked out what was going wrong. And what we identified was that they had a really highly segmented maintenance regime, which meant that when the trains came into the depots at night to do bits of work on them, there was lots of little bits that needed doing, whereas if you could pull them together and be more efficient with how you carried out what you were doing, we had a highly inflexible sort of workforce that Joe only did this task and Tom only did this task, but actually we're taking the same panel off to do both of them separately. Right. So we modelled it to work out what the problems were. We then remodelled what it could look like, to which London Underground then said, yeah, okay, that looks great. We think it will help. Go ahead and do it. So then we spent a few months with the maintainers themselves, talking through it on a hands-on point of view. I spent time in the depots. We trialed undertaking the maintenance activities in the flow that we suggested, and to then take it to the point where we could put it all on the pieces of paper and say, here, implement this. It was meant to be implemented in the summer, but I think COVID has paused it. But it should save, they calculated it should save London Underground over £1 million a year, just by changing this stuff. And it was really rewarding to be able to sit round the table with my friends for dinner in London and say, oh, the project I'm working on could improve your commute. The trains will turn up on time. And
I bet they loved you. That's great though. And how exciting is that? Again, all the different projects, 1 year or 1 week you can be working on this, and then next week, next year, you could be working on something completely different. It's exciting. It must mean you keep like on top of your game as such, in terms of, the knowledge that you must be gaining in so many different industry sectors. It's phenomenal, isn't it? It's exciting. Zach, coming back to you. So you were involved in a really interesting project on your second summer placement with Frazer-Nash. Could you give me a bit more detail about that? I know you've talked a bit about the experience you've got so far, but what's that you experienced in your second one?
Okay, doke. So basically, at the start of my summer placement, my line manager came to me with an idea that he thought was going to take one day, that I would come to a conclusion. It was basically, the idea was, can we charge drones using high voltage transmission lines? And you could try and fly the drone right next to the line and keep it charged indefinitely, and you could basically fly indefinitely. So he wanted me to basically say, no, it can't be done, and just kill it and within a day or two.
Right.
So I did do that. I went away, I used MATLAB to model the magnetic field around about 400 kV and 275 kV transmission lines. I then used my kind of university background to work out the kind of power flows that we could expect to get from the magnetic field. And I went back to him and said, no, this can't happen. You can't charge the drones through the power lines. Basically, for anyone interested, the frequency's far too low. You need a massive coil on the drone.
Anyone listening, it doesn't work.
So, but that wasn't the end of it. I then come back to him with another idea. I was like, well, we can't do that, but we could use a network of either wireless charging stations or battery swapping stations, which a drone lands on it and then it automatically changes the empty battery for a fresh one. So we could use a network of those along with artificial intelligence and autonomous drones to save transmission network owners lots of time, cost, and risk associated with inspecting their transmission lines. So transmission lines all across the country, they need periodically inspected because they get general wear and tear, corrosion, obstructions, stuff like that. So they need inspected, and the way that currently happens is they go up and down the lines, but they hire a helicopter and they go up and down and use cameras to inspect the lines.
Right.
But of course, that involves pilots flying really close to live lines, which is really dangerous. And the cost of hiring a helicopter in the first place is really expensive.
Yeah.
So if we could use autonomous drones to do all of this stuff without putting anyone in harm's way, then we can save them a lot of money.
Makes sense.
So I said this to my manager, and we started a private venture, which is I'll speak about in a couple of minutes, to get a bit of budget together so that I could create a presentation displaying basically how this system could work and the benefits of the system. I then went, and after the presentation was created, I got in touch with one of the business managers at the company, and he probed around some transmission network owners and companies who are doing these inspections on the power lines. And I managed to get in touch with an asset inspection manager with a company that inspects National Grid's transmission lines. I travelled down to Wales with him. I met the business manager in Warrington, and then I travelled down to Wales, and we presented my presentation to him and told him how we could save them a lot of time and money, basically. And he was really interested in it, could really see the benefits of it, but he didn't want to foot the bill to pay for it, basically. So we didn't end up winning any work from that. But again, that it was really interesting getting to create this presentation and present it to a client all on my own back in a placement. So it was really good.
That's fantastic. But yeah, I know we're going to come back to the kind of venture scheme. So hold on that thought, Zach. I'm coming back to you, Dylan. I know you've only been there just over a month. Have you worked any projects yet? Anything that you're doing at the moment, that you could tell us about, which is exciting?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously it's early days, but one of the nice things is that I've been put straight onto projects, straight onto work that they kind of had lined up before I arrived, if I'm honest, which was kind of a very nice feeling to be sort of in demand. Yeah, so the quote unquote specialty that I have is developing very, very, very rapid code. So like one of the sort of initial basic things that they brought me on was to kind of optimize an old code base that they have, and that's nice because that's then been developed into being asked to sort of take ownership of some of my own kind of programming and develop something for a client, which in the first month is a bit mental, if I'm honest. So it's really quite sort of it's gone very fast, and it's a really gratifying feeling to sort of be given that kind of responsibility. In terms of actual project work that I can talk about and that B is interesting, I don't have much, but there's stuff that's like down the pipeline that I'm excited to get started on soon.
Oh, that's good, because that was one of my thoughts actually. I wonder if you did have a bit of a pipeline of projects coming up. So do you know what those projects are in the pipeline?
For some of them, but sometimes it's a bit unpredictable just based on when work comes in.
Right.
You know, you can't always predict which bids you'll win, whether what customers you might run into.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Philippa and Ian know way more about this than I do. But in terms of general pipeline stuff, there are some projects that are coming up or that might need resourcing or help that you can plan for and that you have things to look forward to, which is nice.
That's good, brilliant. So when we obviously we have all spoke before this webinar, but one of the things I think you mentioned initially in that, a bit of a motto that you have at Frazer-Nash is be the answer. And I know it's super important to everyone at Frazer-Nash. Philippa, this has had a bit of an impact on your role. Could you tell us a bit more about what I'm talking about and a bit about the be the answer motto?
Yeah, so Frazer-Nash really empower us as consultants, right down from the fresh graduates, to be able to deal with customers ourselves and be able to help them and provide answers to their questions or point them in the direction of the person within the company that can provide the answers. It's really unique to Frazer-Nash from talking to peers in other companies, that we're given that level of responsibility, that you haven't got your hand held constantly by a manager sort of interfering with you doing that. And be the answer is you as a consultant be able to answer a customer's demands or questions or issues. Yes, okay, you won't always be able to, you won't always have the knowledge or understanding to be able to, but that's where the 2 phone calls comes in, that you're only ever you know who to ask to know who will know the answer to meet the people that you need to. So yeah, it is really unique how much Frazer-Nash empower their employees, right down to people that have only been at the company for a short while, and it really does help you progress quickly, taking on that level of responsibility.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. I suppose it's something which again is great for people listening now to hear that that's what life is like at Frazer-Nash, isn't it? It still goes back to something we mentioned right at the beginning, that kind of family feel. 2 calls away and you've got the answer, and you've got people around you that can help you and are willing to help, which is great. Zach, I'm going to come back to you if that's all right, just about the venture scheme. So if you can tell the audience a bit about this, I know we're about to touch upon it, but yeah, if you could tell us a bit about that and why as an employee it's beneficial to get involved in.
So the private venture scheme, or PV as it's known in the company, it really is quite rare to Frazer-Nash, I think. So it's basically a small budget that you can apply for to do something that isn't directly just bidding for work or working on technical projects. You can't just obviously apply for a budget to go and do your gardening for the day. It has to be something that benefits the company or progresses your technical career. So for example, like writing a magazine article about a specific technical area. There was a few more recent examples. Someone took some time off of work to look into using 4G enabled cameras on hard hats to enable like sites surveys to happen remotely.
Okay.
So someone looked into that, and we might win some work out of that in the future.
Yeah.
We might not. But again, what I just spoke about, creating that presentation about drones, I got a small budget to create that. And it's basically just something that it's not, you don't need to do it. No one needs to do a PV in the company, but it can really help you if you have something that you're really interested in that the company's not specifically focused on, then you can really add your 2 pence to the company, kind of thing.
Yeah. And it benefits both parties, doesn't it? It benefits you as an individual because you're learning new skills, doing something you're passionate about. But then also, it benefits the company because, like you say, you might win new future projects, or, you as an individual are going to improve on your presentation skills, this, that, and the other, which again makes you a better employee. So it's all round win-win. You also touched on external training courses, which Frazer-Nash is happy for you to attend. Do you have anything kind of planned in the future? I'm guessing they'll probably will be virtual, but have you got any kind of training courses in the pipeline, Zach?
Yeah, so I've actually just yesterday submitted a training request form to go on a wiring regulations course. It's an online course where they give you all of the training material online, and you can just study it at your own pace. Okay. And then once you've learned all of the materials, you then just book a test and you go to a test centre. I'm not too sure how it's going to work with the new restrictions that have been brought in, but I'm assuming it will just be like a test centre where you're in a room yourself, and it's like a 60 question multiple choice test. And once I've got that qualification, I will be able to design electrical systems to the most recent wiring regulations and make sure that everything is safe and proper.
Good. Dylan, how about you? Have you got any training schedules booked in the pipeline?
I don't have any at the moment, but that's because I'm currently looking at figuring out sort of what I want to get training in. It's good to target it. I think, as Zach has said, Frazer-Nash is very happy for you to go off and do it. For instance, if I wanted to go and get a certification in C# or one of the languages that I'm learning at the moment, that will be supported. One of the nice things that my team are doing as well at the moment is we're having sort of lunchtime sessions where we will, someone will bring a topic to the table that they're knowledgeable about and kind of share that knowledge amongst the rest of us. And there's little informal training opportunities like that available as well, that really just promote kind of knowledge sharing and things like that across the company.
That's good. Brilliant. Good stuff. Philip, I'm going to end it with you if that's okay. You, very excitedly, were nominated by Frazer-Nash for the IT Female Engineer Awards in 2019.
We didn't even stage that. We both just went like that at the same time.
How did it feel being nominated? Tell me what it was all about.
Yeah, really, really flattering. I'd attended the award ceremony a couple of times and just been really inspired by the evening. But for colleagues to approach me and say, oh, we think you should put in an application for these awards was, really flattering. I'm really encouraged for Frazer-Nash to recognise what my efforts in sort of STEM outreach and promoting the women in engineering sort of field.
So what kind of work have you done across STEM, which kind of any kind of projects that you've done? Did you have to go back into kind of give back to, say, young people? What kind of projects have you done around that?
Yeah, so it tends to be sort of outreach events where you go to schools or sometimes universities or sometimes online and just talk about engineering in some form or other. Sometimes it can be presentations or it can be more interactive, or we've done like speed dating.
I was thinking
it's really varied. But my personal passion is about showing the diversity of careers that you can do within engineering to both young boys and young girls, that whilst there are the obvious sort of fluid dynamics, structural analysis, design engineers, like type of things that map very easily to your modules at university, there are also sort of a lot of opportunities within engineering beyond those strictly theoretical roles as well, within sort of more systems engineering. So looking at requirements or safety, or again, supportability, where I started, technology management, and then also you can be a project manager within engineering as well. That's my passion, about showing that it's more than just being the people wearing hard hats or high vis or steel toe cap boots. There's a lot of roles out there that aren't necessarily the traditional ones that you necessarily see.
Fantastic. No, I think that's absolutely brilliant. You know, personally, even from, you know, Gradcracker's point of view, you know, it's great that, you know, you're going out there pushing that message to everyone. So that's great. Brilliant. Well done. Cal, I'm going to hand back to you so we can interrogate Ian next and find out everything we need to know from Ian. So there you are.
Thank you very much, Jess, and thanks very much everybody for sharing your stories with us. Ian, I want to start off with by asking you about the progress people can make within Frazer-Nash. So I know we've got loads of different stories there, from Dylan, who's a month in, to Philippa, who's 6 years in. But I know when a student progresses into, you know, like a senior consultant role at Frazer-Nash, there's then three different streams that you can go down, isn't there? So there's business management, group leader, and principal consultant. So could you tell me the difference between those three, those three streams that you can go into, just so the students have got a bit of an idea that when they start as a graduate, what they can end up doing, years down the line?
Yeah, definitely. It is split, as you say, into three kind of avenues that you can get to. So you work your way up from engineer, senior engineer, consultant, senior consultant. Once you get to that point, you've very much got kind of three routes you can take. The first one would be becoming a group leader, and that's looking after a team of technical experts, helping them and to deliver on projects and deliver technical work. That route can also then lead up to kind of engineering managers, looking after whole departments and looking after several teams, and then kind of the business unit directors are above that. So it's quite a kind of detailed path. With regards to the business manager roles, that's kind of more of your sales type role. So if you decide that you don't want to be into management, but you do want to kind of work with the teams, you're more interested in the business development, going out to speak to customers, spotting opportunities, developing those, and bringing those kind of together with the technical team. So you're kind of selling what the technical teams can deliver to our customers, finding new customers, and kind of exploring that avenue. And again, you can move into a business manager role from senior consultant, and then you've got the opportunity to kind of develop a team of business managers and become a group business manager. So there's development routes throughout that way as well. If you wanted to go a completely technical route and weren't too interested in kind of the line management, we then have the kind of principal consultant route. So you become a real discipline expert in what you're doing. You're really focused on kind of the technical work and becoming kind of the best you can in that technical work and developing your skills. From that kind of role, you'd be responsible kind of securing and delivering technical projects. You're kind of that expert matter that people can turn to for more technical knowledge.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. And I think, from anybody who's out there watching, whether you want to be involved in the technical aspect, people and managing people, business development, or being a discipline expert, then all of these roles are available to you at Frazer-Nash. But I'm not saying, go in now and thinking, in 10 years time, I want to be a discipline expert. Don't pigeonhole yourself either. Go in with an open mind. And I think, Philippa, you can back me up on this. Philippa went in with an open mind at Frazer-Nash. She's changed teams, she's changed departments, she's changed locations. So make sure you are open, flexible. And if you are, obviously Frazer-Nash will back you up on all of those decisions. And just to move on to the application process. So obviously the application process, all the details that you need to know as listeners is all on the Frazer-Nash Hub on Gradcracker. And there is one part of the application process that I do want to touch upon, and that is the virtual presentation that you do ask students to give. Now, I know in this virtual world at the moment, we are kind of getting used to it slightly. I am not, I hate technology. But when Jess has spoken to students, you know, she's been virtually on campus all week, and some of the students are coming back saying, oh, you know, what are these virtual presentations? You know, what's expected of me? And some of them are quite apprehensive around this area. So what advice in particular to Frazer-Nash, Ian, would you give students who are, might be going through this process in a couple of weeks' time with you?
Yeah, there's a few things that I'd probably cover here, and it's really kind of preparing as if you were doing any kind of presentation. So I think the first thing is kind of, as soon as you get that brief that you're going to be doing a presentation, make sure that you read it, that you understand it. If you've got any questions around it, get them asked early on, so that then you can move on to kind of the preparing for it. Make sure that you've got the software and applications that you need in order to deliver it as well. But I guess once you're comfortable that you're with what you're being asked to do, the main thing is really just to make sure that you're prepared for it, research the company, research the area of the business that you're looking to apply to, and ensure that you're kind of covering each section of that brief in the presentation. I'd say as well, just make it as relevant as you can for the role that you're actually looking to move into and the job that you're looking to secure with the company. Mm-hmm. When it comes to actually delivering the presentation, at the end of the day, try and relax. I know it's a stressful kind of thing to do, but nobody wants to see you fail. Everyone wants to see you give the best example of yourself. So we're not going to try and trip you up. Nobody wants to see that. They just want to see you deliver the best presentation that you can, so that we can make a decision on you showing your best work. So try and relax, try and enjoy it if you can, and don't think of it as being too scary.
What kind of, see, I'm putting you on the spot now, Ian, you probably can't tell me, but can we know what kind of presentations you ask a student to give? Is it a presentation about themselves, or about a project that they'd like to cover, or are you not allowed to say?
It does depend on the role. It will generally be related to the position that you're applying for. So I think, as you touched on, we've got lots of adverts on GradCracker at the moment, from kind of sustainability for an environment to systems to mechanical to nuclear. So it will be related to the kind of work that we're doing. I think last year, when we weren't in COVID times and it wasn't virtual presentations, it was based at an assessment centre. Part of that was giving a presentation on the work that you'd done in your final year at university, or projects that you'd carried out at university. So it's kind of, it will depend on the role, it will depend on the managers, but you will get a full briefing beforehand. Yeah.
And that's all you're saying, Ian?
That's all we can say.
No, thank you. Sorry for putting you on the spot there. I appreciate
That's
that.
all right.
So yeah, thank you very much, everybody. It's been really insightful, and really enjoyed listening to all your stories. I think just to end, the thing that I like the most is being able to work on a project from its inception all the way to the end, to the conclusion, to the result. I think that's something that I find really attractive, and I know the grads, Philippa and Zach, you've touched on it as well with your summer placements, and Dylan, it's your time is to come still. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. We just another note just to reiterate, so opportunities closing on the 31st of December. Get your applications in, and make sure you reference the GradCracker hub, so Frazer-Nash hub on GradCracker, when you're putting in your application. Make sure you say to Ian when you are applying that you've seen this webinar. I know a lot of you students out there are emailing me and Jess and saying, oh, am I allowed to say that watch the webinar? I'm like, yeah, of course you are. Yeah, this is what they want to know about. Ian's now a superstar. He wants to be famous. So yeah, make sure you do all of those bits and pieces as always. The Frazer-Nash webinar will be available tomorrow in full on the hub, so make sure you rewatch it, and it will be broken up into segments and available on the Career Centre early next week. Jessica is having a well-deserved break next Thursday.
And everyone's thinking, thank God she's going.
You're going to give me a heart attack, so thanks for that.
Sorry, everyone.
And I'm joined by lovely Sophie. So Sophie's going to be joining me next week, 2 o'clock on Thursday, where we are joined by Experian. So Experian, you'll all know the name, but I don't know if you know what they do, but they are the UK's most experienced credit score provider. So again, thank you very much, everybody. It's been lovely speaking to you all. Thank you very much for tuning in, and hopefully I will see you same time, same place next week, 2 p.m. See you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye, 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 bye.
Bye.